Thank you for the kind words and the kind introduction. A warm welcome to everyone in the room. Myself, Pranav, for next 35 or 50 minutes, we'll try to see and gain insights from this expert panel on how digital AI is permeating into the boardrooms now, and every boardroom conversation is not ending without discussing these topics. Just to give you a sort of a figure, I was just reading something just before this. Most large organizations, and there was a survey conducted by a very reputed analyst firm, and it is from an Indian context, large organizations as well as mid-tier organizations, at least 85% of them have an in-flight digital transformation or an AI program running in the organizations. But any guesses that out of these 85 odd sort of percent people who are already embarked onto this journey and they're driving digital programs, how many of these programs really sort of deliver the envisaged benefits that we had initially thought about and built a sort of a big business case around that? So any guesses how many programs fail as well and they don't deliver the envisaged benefits? Any guesses, anyone? More than 50%, 75%, 25%? So any guesses? Anyone? 75. Sorry? 70 to 75. I think you're bang on. It's about 75% programs don't deliver the intended benefits that initially are envisaged. And that's what sort of goes back to the boardroom also, because some of these large programs are being sponsored and driven from boardrooms. And the important part, what CIOs are now, the role itself is sort of evolving, is not just from a technology custodian or a technology sponsor. They are playing, or rather the role evolving for them is more towards a value enhancer in the organization. They are the ones who are now also the value custodians, not just from a technology risk or a technology sort of a deployment. They are the custodians of value for an enterprise. Now, there are several aspects what CIOs are more intended to do, or rather should be doing, or rather they're already doing and playing that role, is a very close interlock with the boardrooms and the board members. And that is to look at what is the shared vision, what are the key objectives that the boardroom looks at from an organization, and how CIOs can actually look at the overall strategy, because the strategy itself has to sort of look at from a perspective that it has to be revisited every 3 months. Again, one more anecdote and one more sort of a thing. Everybody has heard about Moore's Law, which says that technology enhancements happen it doubles up every 18 months. But I was I was listening to a recent MIT podcast which says that the AI enhancements and AI advancements are happening every 4 months with same cost base, and the advancements are doubling up in every 4 months. So that's what creates a need that even the strategy that you are formulating in boardrooms and the initiatives that you are trying to sponsor have to be revisited in the light of newer developments. So that's something that CIOs are best to play that role. Second is education. Of course, when the technology changes so quickly and rapidly, it's absolutely essential to create that environment in the boardroom that people are in that learning mindset. And that's where CIOs are also sort of, that role is evolving. Third is more about talking about risks, talking about the value custodianship that I was talking about. So that's where the role is evolving, and I think with this panel, I'm very keen to hear their perspectives. Personally, very looking forward to this discussion to learn as well, because you guys are driving these things in your organization. So we'll try and structure it in a way that we are covering from right at the top, that how do we look at the overall strategy for a firm? How do we set the direction for leveraging digital in an organization? How are we setting certain principles that will drive the value behaviors in an organization? So maybe, Arvind, I will start with you. And just to sort of understand your experience when you are trying to communicate a strategy or you are trying to communicate an initiative to a boardroom, how do you sort of take it forward with them? Is it a very formal process? You have written down sort of business plans and business cases. You have a very detailed technology evaluation that has been done. So how does, or is it like a very informal way that there is a new thing which is happening in the market, we are seeing some competition, adopting some of these trends, how do we now look at it? It is more like a brainstorming style of creating a sort of a technology strategy or an overall strategy for the firm. So how do you sort of go about it?
Well, Pranav, being in India, you got to follow the Indian structure. So you start with the consensus building. Okay, you don't start anything up front. You don't break anything in the boardroom. You're going to get beaten up badly there. So, few things you got to socialize it with people. I think the biggest aspect that needs to be understood and respected is there is genuine fear of the unknown. Because the board, for organizations, especially large organizations, you're running it already. In reasonable terms, you're running it with profitability. There is good volumes. Returns are reasonably good. So, have you reached a stage where what problem are you solving that I have not mentioned as a problem? Because you're bringing in something new and you're saying that this is good for the future. Very basic question, who even asked you this question? So, acknowledge the fear. Acknowledge what we know, acknowledge what we don't know. That means honestly disclosing the bets that we are going to take and not overselling things just because they look good and it can do all these nice things. Talk about the benefits, talk about the risks, and then put our organization in that and say, based on this benefit and risk, this is where we fall in the spectrum. And thereby, what is the right time to do it? What is the right quantum in which we will have to do it? Because sometimes, do we know what sort of activities we need to publicly acknowledge, what sort of activities we need to do, see results, then decide to make announcements or not. Don't rush to making announcements saying our organization is adopting cutting edge and all that. So that way the organization's brand is well protected. Right. Beyond all of this, don't forget the fundamentals of the vision and the mission of the organization. Is what we are doing aligned to the vision and mission? And because it is a new age technology that probably doesn't have a precedent, how is it that this can take us into the future? So in many cases, you might have to look for examples from other industries that are not in your industry segment, definitely may not be in your competitor segment also, if you're trying to do the early mover. All of this has to be stratified, discussed explicitly. While discussing this explicitly, we have to respect the level of knowledge the corresponding board member has or does not have. Just because they are senior people sitting in the board, they've got their own expertise. We're taking a topic to them, so we will have to explain it to them the way, and not forgetting that we are playing the role of their prime advisor. So we have to advise them the right way. We are not selling anything to them. Because many a times we think that we are making a pitch there. We are not making a pitch there. We are playing the role of prime advisor to enable them make the decision. We should forget that role clarity.
No, absolutely right, Arvind, and it has to be looked at very contextually from an organization lens perspective, because your risk could be probably an advantage in a different sort of a industry or a sector, and we have to be very, very cautious that what we are investing in is making sense from our personal organization purpose as well. So maybe, Dilip, you come from a multinational sort of a organization, and of course you have global stakeholders, you have different teams to look at, and we were chatting before this as well. You have a large tech team, you have a plethora of consultants who are working with you, you have global stakeholders, you have different markets. How do you look at some of these initiatives, or when you are strategizing towards making something better with the use of technology and digital, how do you align your stakeholders? How do you communicate the key benefits, risks, whatever it is, and qualify the value from an initiative?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks for the invitation and good evening, everyone. Now, if you sort of look at from a digital agenda perspective, right? And the first thing is, I think everybody today, including the board, understands that AI is no longer a buzzword, and I think somebody was talking about that. I could go on and on talking numbers, but just to state, for example, there's a recent McKinsey report which talks about, Gen AI contributing roughly 2.2 to, I think, roughly around $4.4 trillion in economic value. Another report, I think it was Deloitte, said 70% of the bottom of the pyramid jobs could be automated, right? Now, for a large organization like Vodafone, which is spanning across the globe, 100,000 roughly employees, if you're having conversations with board, it has to start with what's the vision, right? And when I say vision, it's of course long term. Now, what does the future state of the organization look like, right? I mean, which are, for example, what is that you're going to create, which is going to be an asset or a differentiator by leveraging AI for Vodafone? It could be then, looking at which are the business units which are going to be early disrupted by technology. For example, just to state a couple of them, for example, customer operations is one big vertical within Vodafone, which is getting disrupted. We've got Topi, which is a conversational AI bot. It roughly today handles 45 million chats a month globally across 15 plus countries, right? So that's the scale of what a technology could do. Similarly, let's say for technology, the code assist, right? And I'm not getting into the use cases currently right now, but zooming out again, which are those business functions where technology is going to add value? What does the future customer journey look like? Because customers look at faster, cheaper, touchless, efficient customer journeys. They want a seamless experience. Look at from an employee perspective, how do you make employees into super employees? How does AI not replace them, but make them, empower them with digital tools so that they become super employees? What's your overall long-term roadmap? And I think it has to have a balanced view, and I completely agree with Arvind in terms of it's not just about the business value that the AI or emerging tech creates. Like, could it sort of disrupt your revenue streams? Could it transform your employer customer experience? What value does it add to the bottom line, cost optimizations? But at the same time, also looking at the risks of AI. And I think that's a very, very important view. The challenges with data security, the data part of it, the bias which sort of creeps in. Like I always say, AI is not a switch. Yeah. It's a journey. But yeah, those are some initial thoughts.
No, I think very relevant, very, very relevant. And similarly, Sudeep, from your perspective, you're leading the entire IT function. How do you communicate back to your board? And when you see something, and for lack of a better word, I would say shiny toys in the market, everybody is going after that. How do you sort of look at what is relevant, what is not relevant, what will impact the actual organization value, or what will really create a long-term impact for an organization? How do you take these messages back to the board, and when you're really at the top of defining something?
Thank you for that question. And whatever both my panelists have said, I completely agree. And in a way, they alluded towards that we look at a problem statement. We don't look at an application of a technology. Since the technology is there, I would not look at where can I apply. I go about searching for issues. Yeah. And we had a successful digital transformation implementation. And it was board mandated. We were given a lot of freedom, and in fact, the lead and lag indicators of success were called out along with the board. So that thing went off well. Now, thereafter, I felt that what do we need to do? We didn't think of what technology to bring in. We felt what are the problems faced? And I will like to delve deeper into one of the use cases, which will give you an example. The entire organization, including myself, I felt that what do we do now? No tools to be bought, nothing is to be done. Then you look at the business and they are ailing with some issue or the other. It could be changing landscape, increasing competition, some new feature, something coming up. In my case, we found we have a challenge with revenue cycle because we treat a lot of patients who are being funded by some other agency. I would not like to delve deeper into those, and we have a lot of leakages there because we get a lot of denials. We treat a patient with, let us say, $100, 10% paid by the patient, 90% to be paid by the payer, any kind. Now that payer deducts and then pays. That deduction goes into my red. We found out a solution. We applied 2 technologies and it got solved. Initially, we started with data intelligence. Subsequently, we went to some level of ML. So for me, I would rather look for a issue which is faced by the board. That is one dimension of looking at it. The other dimension is where you are thinking really out of the box. For that, a collaboration is needed with the business, and there are various levels of maturity which I have seen. For example, there is a maturity when we realize that, oh, this is a new revenue stream for my own hospital. There is a maturity when they say that, we are not really out of the box. We think can be some level of improvement. Both examples exist. Taking a leaf again from my own experience and stating in 2-3 lines to be more concise. We are doing something called a tumor boardroom, which is a special boardroom with many clinicians, and they sit and discuss cases. And those are complex cases or some death cases, why did it occur. They do it through normal PDFs, PowerPoints, and some MS Teams put in. But then when there is a cross-reference to 10 other cases which some other specialist has seen, they were all relying on memory. So what we did was we did a pilot with a AI tool being thrown in to ask which are the patients which similar kind of thing we have found. So it is an application of AI. We did not do any LLM, we did not do anything. For the previous example of disallowances, we created some ML. In this case, we just went to the market, bought a tool and put it there. So these are the 2-3 ways in which we communicate. Whenever you have whenever I have spoken about somebody else's problem, whenever I've got, this is actually general, everywhere it is, the same phenomena. If you get interested in their problem and solving with them, then they get interested automatically. Then they help you with what is measurable. Many of the KPIs in my digital transformation are not my invention. Those are business KPIs. They told me that these are the things you should monitor as lead indicators. Then the lag indicators will be in control. So that is how the journey has been. Take this.
Yeah, it's and no, you made some very relevant points, and I think business and the functional sort of areas always take a precedence when you apply technology from a business lens. Then the benefits are really quantifiable and actually sort of realizable as well, rather than just going after shiny toys. And of course, the other point that you said, from a technology progression also, there are of course very sophisticated technology, but what is the right fit technology for you? And for that use case is also very relevant.
Same thing in different ways.
Yeah, of course, yes. So maybe Raman will come to you, and maybe we'll try, and because Sudeep also alluded to that fact that how do you look at KPIs? How do you look at measuring the success of these programs? And what are some of the indicators that will define success? How will you measure it? How will you even sort of first quantify it and keep measuring it till the time you actually see that the business case that was initially built has fructified and has actually been realized. So how do you look at some of these key quantifiable measures, and what are those measures that you generally look at in programs such as these?
Cool. So startups and enterprises are working in a very different parlance, right? Startups are very nimble. The way it works is very different than how the healthcare or telco industry works. So KPIs are very different in the boardrooms when we talk small scale, nimble companies who is fast growing. Small scale, I would say example, Lovable. 35 people company, 8 months, 800 million revenue, valuation, 200 million revenue, right? Can be in terms of revenue, can be in terms of people, but in terms of overall value which is delivered to the society is very different, right? And this is why when we talk about short-term and long-term goals in the boardroom, is very different talks. In startups in my boardroom, the short-term goal is say 1 month, and the long-term goal is 1 year. In that time, industry changes completely, in my parlance, right? So what are the KPIs which we are seeing is, end of the day, every enterprises have 2 or 3 things in common. One thing is top line and bottom line. Business at the heart of the core, whether my bottom line is going up or my top line is going up, that remains everybody's questions in the boardroom, be it your investors, be it your shareholders, be it your internal stakeholders, right? Number one. Number two is, am I secure? Is my brand is secure? So security can be in terms of data and even in terms of reputation and being relevant as well. Means it might be the case that you are there doing good, but somebody has become a new age company, has become 3x or 10x of you. So you are there, but no longer valuable, right? And the third thing is the FOMO, which many board members or investors say somebody is doing like this. Are we doing it? Is a question, right? And then it becomes the responsibility of the CDO or CIO to make sure to demystify these kind of things, right? And in this whole case, we help them see what is happening into the organization, what is happening into the environment, and like correctly Arvind said that, how does it fit into my way of looking into things, right? So then we start the journey of actually being digital. Now being digital can be overall customer experience. So how is my churn rate? How is we are from the media industry, we measure our success in terms of daily active users and monthly active users. So the ratio between the same. It can be how, if I have, so example, we use a lot of AI ML into our platform. So how accurate my predictions are. Are my LLM, because AI ML consumes a lot of capital in terms of making the sense of the data, whatever we are having. So how accurately my AI ML is guessing and how does it converting to revenue, right? We calculate it at a level of how much each video or each news article generation cost us and how much the revenue we are generating against it. Are we putting the right advertisement to the less number of people which is relevant to them, rather than serving one advertisement to say 100 million people, but click rate is less than 0.5%, right? So these are some typical KPIs which we follow in terms of output, in terms of AI availability, and the last thing is how good the data we are generating. Because eventually with everything what we generate and consume makes and generates a lot of data which is further reused for making the future business better.
Right.
So quality of data matters also here.
No, absolutely. Raman, you made again a very, very relevant point that every industry, every sector, and every kind of use case also has to be looked at it from a very particular lens of how KPIs will have to be looked at. KPIs will also, it is not one standard KPI list that everybody can sort of follow. It has to be again very contextual and may differ from a sector to sector perspective. So maybe Dilip, to you, so how do you communicate back your, say, ROI? You talk to a lot of business stakeholders across regions, across different groups, functional areas. How do you quantify return on investment which is required for doing a project?
No, fair point. I think, see, what we've done is we've put a AI measurement, or let's say digital initiative measurement framework in place, right? While it would vary from initiative to initiative, sector to sector, but primarily we bucket it into 4 pillars. First is any digital initiative. The first pillar is your business impact. The second is technology related. Third is adoption. And fourth is your user experience. And let me sort of zoom in into each of them. On the first pillar, which is the business impact, and I think I echo Raman's thought here, you look at your revenue uplift, your productivity improvement, your cost savings, It could be experience-related customer, CSAT scores or your NPS scores have improved. And if you get into micro percentage automation steps, turnaround times, etc., right? So that's your business impact. And any digital initiative, I think one of the key pillars is to clearly define success criteria in terms of these matrices. The second one is in terms of adoption, right? Any digital initiative, be it AI or non-AI, any technology initiative, you have to have during your POC or during your scale-up phase, whichever it is, how does the adoption look like? And various metrics, and I think some of that, Raman, clearly how many percentage of users adopting it, your percentage adoption. If it's an app, it could be daily login users, monthly active users, so on and so forth, sessions per user, I can go on and on. So that's your adoption pillar. The third is your technology pillar. I think this is very important in terms of if you're, for example, leveraging an AI model, what's your percentage accuracy, right? I talked about chatbot example earlier. Is the chatbot accurate? So we have matrices around percentage accuracy. It could be downtime. It could be related to quality of data he talked about. And lots of, that's your third bucket. And the fourth bucket is your user experience. I think any initiative in the journey, you got to be closer to the ground. How are users on the ground reacting? It could be a process associate, it could be a call center agent, it could be a middle manager, it could be a senior leader, wherever the technology is adding value. How are users feeling about it? So through lots of surveys, you could sort of do that, measure your NPS per initiative. But these are primarily the four pillars of measuring and monitoring performance. We ensure that throughout the journey, right, these are measured, monitored, not just that, but communicated transparently across the stakeholders. Yeah?
No, I think that's a very well laid out sort of a framework that you just articulated. And I'm sure you will be, again, this will not be just one sort of a framework. You will be contextualizing to every opportunity. Some KPIs under each bucket may have to be looked at in a different way or a different perspective when you're talking about specific use cases or initiative as such. So with that, maybe Arvind, to you, I'm sure in a lot of the cases, digital and AI, everybody, and I think Sudeep also mentioned, Raman also mentioned, that sometimes there's a certain sort of a push that comes from the board members. Why are we not doing it? Investors may come and say, why are you not doing it? Your competition is doing it. Why are you not adopting it? So how has been your experience? And if there's any sort of a view around that, maybe somebody is saying that just go for it, there's budget available, and you felt that probably that's not the right way to go about it. How do you sort of then, and it's equally important to say no to initiatives as well. Not every initiative is something that may deliver value, and you are closer to the ground. So how do you manage that sort of a situation?
Well, it's indeed true that most of strategy is governed by what the neighbor is doing. So, so that's and that's definitely there. That they are using it. I heard it is going very well there. Why are we not doing it? So all these are completely subjective. So, and obviously, like I said, when these are brought, the initial reaction is our BP rises. But at some point in time, we got to understand the perspective of why they are bringing that problem. While they have explained it in the context of the neighbor, they are doing it. We are not literally, it's a finger pointing thing where you are falling short of, this is a race, you need to be ahead. That's kind of what it means. But if we keep that part aside, I think the essence of what we are trying to distinguish is how can we drive better efficiency? How can we get back to a potential leadership position? How can we be in the space of the movers and shakers for the industry and thereby gain business advantage? That's the intention. While the package was different in terms of do what the neighbor is doing. So I think that part has to be understood, and that is the business problem to which we need to solution. So if we hear that business problem, we figure out whether the neighbor solution is appropriate or some other solution is appropriate. And remember, just because somebody is using AI or ML or digital doesn't mean that's the right solution set to solve the problem. Like what Sudeep said, you know, you're trying to do a tumor board. That doesn't mean you need to do an LLM model on it. You can just buy a solution and make sure that the case history is done well. So you'll have to look at it in terms of what technology solution, I'm not even going to call it digital, what technology solution fits, so that I would prefer not to negate the intent of the question. So saying no is a very project-based answer. You asked me to do what they are doing and I'm saying no, that will not work. Point taken. But the intent was lost. Capture the intent. Map it to the best solution. Not always it could be the cutting edge solution. Be open to the fact that it is not the cutting edge solution. Go back to applying again the key principles and the KPIs that measure success for the organization and where we are. Many a times, are we too early for it? So, it also depends on how mature is our organization. You can't take it ahead of the schedule of your organization. Measure that and plant it in the right course of it. Not leaving the opportunity to accelerate the organization also. So don't do the slow course. See if an acceleration is possible. I think that opportunity should not be left, but don't overdo acceleration to fall flat also.
No, absolutely valid point. I think we all have to run our own races, and we cannot be just going ahead and following somebody else who is probably at a different maturity, different, say market-oriented sort of a perspective. Now, Sudeep, just coming back to you now, this was a perspective which is coming from the top board members pushing some sort of an agenda that why are we not doing some initiatives on digital or AI. But how about that you have a situation that you are completely convinced that something of a program around digital or any AI sort of an initiative can really add value to the firm, to the organization. So how do you take that message back to the board? How do you convince? What is your, because we are all operating in a very conflicted sort of a, we all have conflicting priorities. Now, some people say that we'll do a POC, we'll do a pilot, we'll showcase a real tangible benefit. Some people may say that we will draft a real sort of a detailed business case. So there's several ways to convince. Now, what is your experience in that particular, say, way in which you would want to convince your board members to sponsor a program?
Good question, because in this question we are presuming that the board has said no to this initiative. It has been presented once.
Yeah, they may have a conflict. They may have a conflict. Yes.
Despite showing them whatever is the case, various reasons, perseverance. And if you're really convinced about it, perseverance will only see you through. You cannot bend over. And also you have to understand where are they coming from. So it's a typical negotiation thing. And negotiation always happens with equals, doesn't happen this way all the time. So we had a situation there, and once we failed and once we succeeded. Many a times we have failed also. I don't have any problems in acknowledging. One of our key initiatives was not allowed for 1.5 years, now it is allowed. So perseverance, you should have conviction in it, and you should, when it is not getting done, you should have, and those were important information security initiatives, and one of my colleagues is sitting there, he will nod yes to it, now ex-colleague, sorry Roshan. So we have to have conviction with that idea. Now it is allowed. So when it was not allowed, we build our guardrails to safeguard the business interests continuously. Moreover, kept reporting on what we did and how we preserved and what are the still possible risks. Because this case in mind is an information security related case, so it was more related to risk. Had it been a business kind of use case, we would have thrown up numbers every time by saying this could have been the possibility. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity. In my previous organization, by showing possibilities and opportunities constantly, perseverance, we were able to win a case. They said nothing. Those were the days of 17, 18, where they did not want to use Skype. Teams was not heard of. So to ask them to implement a data intelligence project, they said, we are not ready yet. Of course, we were not ready. But if you do not make a beginning somewhere, you will never be able to do it. And data intelligence, so those days were a preliminary mandatory thing. So we showed opportunities. One such mail stuck with a good guy, and they said, yeah, there is an opportunity, reduce.
Yeah.
So perseverance is what has helped. So we were successful and unsuccessful. If we are really having the conviction, that's it.
No, great answer, Sudeep. So Raman, going over to you, and you are, say, probably coming from a area, and your organization is more sort of very agile, very nimble. There's of course pressure from the investor community and all. Now, when you look at one side, you have to be absolutely agile, and one side you are building for the future, which has to be on standard, stable foundation. And that is where, how do you keep doing these new technology infusion into your environment to stay, of course, relevant in the market and be very agile and adaptive at the same time? At the same time, looking at building an organization for the future which is on stable ground. So how do you look at that? And of course, these are again boardroom sort of conversations where sometimes the board members may come back to you that you do something which is probably short term, and you alluded to that fact. But how do you look at that sort of a perspective when you infuse technology to build a future sort of a ready organization?
So whenever we do such kind of exercises, right, the benefits are seen in a short-term and a long-term goals, right? So very important to keep on building MVPs and show them some quick wins, right? The features may not be a full-blown automated AI robotic stuff, might be a small things, might be doing some kind of hackathons and implementing it into the core product itself, right? So every board meeting when you go, you have something new to showcase, which keeps them excited, which making sure that without putting too much of investment into it, the product is getting into the roadmap of where it is supposed to be, and then the board getting confidence on you. Even though you are doing small things, which is the next tech age, it can be a very small thing by changing your antivirus from a typical signature base to maybe a XDR kind of stuff, right? And then telling to the board, see, this is AI enabled. And eventually you are in the back of the minds for the manufacturing like of companies where people don't understand adoption of technology much. Some of them do that, but not everyone. So that was the first thing, right? And then for buying of the larger term goal, longer term goals, right, where the main money lies, right, we have to cater to both tangible and intangible benefits as well. Sometimes it may directly convert it into a revenue-based thing where you can say the revenue will grow by 10%. But as well, you have to see intangible benefits as well and show them that picture, a holistic picture, where we can say performance will improve, your brand visibility will improve, might be the number of dependency of manpower will reduce, your operation excellence will go up by XYZ, your time to market will go up, your feature release cycle can be improved by say XYZ sprints lesser, right? My coders may 30% less they have to code by using say any kind of cursor kind of platforms, right? So we have to give them a holistic picture about some kind of long-term and short-term benefits, and then tangible and intangible benefit putting together, showing them a long-term and short-term goals. But yes, important is to keep them, giving them some pulses of short-term wins so that they continue to have the confidence in you, yes, this will eventually work out.
No, very valid point, and it's always a sort of a journey with end in mind, but short sort of experiments leading to that end state. So very quickly, we are at the top of the hour. One quick pointer from everyone, maybe starting with you, Raman. what is one lesson learned that you would want to share with this group of people that they should not do?
They should not do, they should not wait. They should go ahead and do things, fail fast, fail safe. Even if you are doing something, please recognize that it is wrong. Means if you have done something because of FOMO and you feel in the journey 20%, 10%, 30% being done, still saying ki this is not right, please do not satisfy, take it to your ego, go to the board and saying this is not working out, we want to kill it here and move forward with something new and different, which may perhaps work out. But do not wait.
Great. Sudeep?
Be conscious, because we are in healthcare, be conscious about what kind of data you are putting in to use, and be wary of what kind of results you are getting. Look out, if it is related to AI, look out for the biases. And if it is in digital transformation, see how it is impacting. Is it negatively impacting? At times, forcing somebody to do, let's say a clinician, to look at the computer and enter data might be retrospective. It may, take away the important time which he would have spent or she would have spent with the patient. So such things.
Yeah. Dilip, quick.
Yeah, I think unless you try, you'll never know. So I think adopting that culture of innovation, doing lots of experiments, low cost, I think that's the key. Low cost, clearly defined success criteria. I think that's the recipe for success, yeah?
Don't get frustrated if the other side is not echoing your enthusiasm.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We are at the top of the hour, and it was a great conversation. At least I had some personal takeaways. I'm sure the group also and the room also had some takeaways from this interaction. So feel free to reach out to us. We are all here in this room. We'll be happy to share any other experiences. But thank you all. Any questions, if there's anything that you would want to ask? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.